A deeply personal confession has now put Travis Clark under a very different kind of spotlight, as he publicly opened up about a period of his life he says left him frustrated, exhausted, and questioning almost everything he believed. On Instagram, Travis shared a series of photos from his baptism on June 28, 2026, including emotional moments in the water, scenes with his wife Katie and their 2 children, and a family photo afterward. But what made the post stand out was not simply the baptism itself. Travis used each photo in the carousel to tell a different part of his story, turning what could have been a simple announcement into a detailed account of how he says he reached his lowest point and eventually found his way back to faith. In the first part of his caption, Travis explained that he had finally stopped running and given his life to Jesus before being baptized. He admitted that he had gone back and forth about sharing the story because of the shame he still associated with that part of his life. According to Travis, he had spent much of his life chasing what he believed would make him fulfilled. He described having a beautiful wife and family, opportunities, money, and a career, yet still feeling deeply empty despite having many of the things he once thought would make him happy. He said that by December of the previous year, he had become frustrated, confused, and exhausted, leading him to question many of the beliefs he had carried for years. The next parts of the carousel became even more revealing. Travis said that in the weeks that followed, he made choices that nearly burned his life to the ground. He acknowledged hurting people who loved him and making selfish decisions he expects to regret for the rest of his life. He described reaching a point where he hated who he had become and felt like he could no longer keep running from what was happening. In that moment, he said he began to recognize what he described as grace and love through Katie, something he had not understood in the same way before. Travis then explained that although he grew up in church and knew the Bible stories, worship songs, and many of the things associated with Christianity, he eventually had to ask himself whether he truly knew Jesus or had simply known about him. He said he began having more honest conversations with God, asking to be shown whether his faith was real, and that over time he felt himself being drawn closer. He described confronting the broken and imperfect parts of himself that he had spent years trying to outrun, hide, fix, or fill, ultimately seeing himself as someone in desperate need of Jesus. By the final portions of the post, Travis framed the baptism as a turning point rather than a polished ending to his story. He acknowledged that Jesus knew every decision and every failure, yet he still believed he was shown grace. On June 28th, he said he ran one last time, but this time he was running toward Jesus. The final photos showed him standing alongside Katie and their 2 children after the baptism, creating a much more intimate image of the moment he had just described. Katie publicly responded with a simple but emotional "love you," while other members and accounts connected to the Bates family filled the comments with hearts, prayer hands, and messages of support. On Instagram, the immediate response was overwhelmingly warm, with the focus placed on Travis' new beginning and the family standing beside him. But Reddit told a noticeably different story. Instead of accepting the baptism as proof that everything had changed, several commenters questioned whether the transformation would actually last. Some said they hoped Travis was sincere and genuinely sorry, especially for Katie and the children, while admitting that they still did not trust him completely. Others questioned whether he had truly dealt with the reasons behind his earlier depression and sense of being lost, or whether religion could become a way of avoiding deeper problems. Some of the reactions were even more cynical, with commenters joking about a possible future vow renewal or wondering whether another major religious gesture could follow another relationship crisis. Others expressed concern for Katie and the children, although some of those comments involved speculation that was not established by the Instagram post itself. And that contrast may be the most interesting part of Travis' latest chapter. His Instagram post presents the baptism as a deeply personal moment of surrender, accountability, and faith, surrounded by the people closest to him. Reddit, meanwhile, is asking a much harder question, not whether Travis can tell the world that he has changed, but whether his actions over time will prove it.